Hello, my students and viewers at home. My name is Ebere. I welcome you to the second phase of this lesson, which is food preservation, processing, and safety from the Home Economic Department, St. Charles College, Onitsha. My students, last time we were able to look at food purchasing, risk factors in food purchasing, and wise buying practices. Today, we are going to continue from where we stopped. So, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to 1. State 3 principles of food preservation. 2. Mention at least 5 preservation methods. 3. State 5 reasons for food preservation. 4. Mention 8 food processing methods. 5. State 8 guidelines on how to keep food safe. Now we are going to look at food preservation. Food preservation is the process of treating and handling food to stop or slow down food spoilage and loss of nutritional value to allow for longer food storage. Oftentimes, preserved food loses their freshness, texture, and color. However, food producers use food additives to make up for quality lost during processing. Now let us look at food preservation methods. The art of food preservation is based on the following principles. They are A. Destruction of microorganisms. This means that some of the methods are used to destroy the microorganisms in the food. B. Preservation of their entry in the food, which means that some of them are used to prevent the entry of this microorganism into the food we eat. And the C. Arrest or preservation of purely chemical reaction, which means that most of them are used to stop preservation of chemical reactions. There are different methods of preserving foods. However, the methods to be used should depend on the nature of the food. Below are methods of preserving food. Number 1, drying. This is the process by which water contents of food is reduced to the level that prevents the growth of microorganisms, hence preventing spoilage. When you dry food, you expose food to a temperature that is high enough to remove the moisture. Drying can be used to preserve fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, grains, legumes, and nuts. For example, this season we are in maize season. The farmers who plant them in large quantities, you see them, they dry them this period in order to make use of them in future. Number 2, freezing. Freezing is the process of chilling foods at least 180 degrees centigrade in a freezer. It prevents bacteria from spreading, which causes spoilage. Freezer compartments of refrigerator is warmer, that is 4 degrees centigrade. Freezing can be used to preserve fruits, vegetable, meat, fish, grains, nuts, dairy, eggs, and prepared food. For example, in our homes, our mothers cook food. After cooking their food, they pack them in a container and put them inside the freezer. What are they trying to do? They are trying to preserve those food and prevent microorganisms from entering into them, and it helps them to stay longer. Number 3, salting. Salting is the process of adding salt to food to draw moisture and prevent the growth of microorganisms. Very few bacteria can survive high solution of salt. Salting is one of the oldest and effective methods of preservation. It is used for meat, fish, and vegetable. Example, if you buy meat early in the morning and you intend to use it in the evening, you don't have refrigerator, what will you do? Spray salt on the meat. When you come back in the evening, you will still see your meat very fresh and they will not be smelling unpleasantly. Number 4, pasteurization and canning. Canning is the process of preserving pasteurized food in sealed jar and cans. Pasteurization is the process of heating foods under a particular temperature for a specific length of time to destroy microorganisms present in the food. Canning is used for milk, fruits, vegetable, meat, seafood, and some prepared food. This means that after pasteurization, you have to can it in order to do what? prevent microorganisms from further entering into the food. Number 5, pickling. This involves submerging foods into a special solution to inhibit the action of the food enzymes on such foods. The solution can be made from brine. Brine is water solution, salt, alcohol, and vinegar. These methods help us to prevent the growth of microorganisms, prevent chemical reactions from taking place in the food, and also dry up the moisture in the food, which help them to last long. The fourth one is boiling. Boiling liquid food items can kill any existing microbe. Milk and water are often boiled to kill any harmful microorganism that may be present in the food. That means that whenever you are boiling any item, any existing microorganism in it will die off, and they will also be harmless to us. Then number 7, heating. Food are heated to temperatures hot enough to kill microorganisms inside them and to preserve them from getting spoiled quickly. That means when you warm your food, any leftover food, when you warm them, you're trying to kill any microorganism that might have entered into them when you leave them in the pot. So you must heat whatever you want to eat before you eat them. Then the 8th one is smoking. This is the process of exposing raw food to smoke instead of cooking it. Smoking helps preserve meat, poultry, and fish, and it also adds distinct flavor and taste to this food. Yes, you can testify that when you eat smoked corn, that they have a beautiful taste more than the one they cooked. Even the smoked fish, when you eat them, they taste better than the one that is being boiled. Reason for food preservation. Some of us may ask, why do we preserve our food? Why do we engage ourselves and take pains to do all these things? The reasons are, 1, to prolong the shelf life of the food, to make the food to last long. 2, to make seasonal food available throughout the year. Yes, when you preserve your food, you find out that at any given time of the year, you will go to the market and you still sell the food. 3, to add variety to the diet. It makes us to eat a lot different kinds of food. We will not base only on those ones that are in season. Number 4, to save time and energy in preparing the food, as the food already been partial processed. Example, your noodle. You find out that your noodle has been partially processed, and that makes you to do what? When you buy them, they stay only 3 minutes for you to prepare. Number 5, food preservation stabilizes prices of food. There is shortage of supply and demand. Food preservation helps the prices to be stable. They are no longer high in prices because the food are always available at any season. Number 6, it prevents decay or spoilage of food. Number 7, it takes care of emergency situation, war, bad weather, sickness, relief, supplies. For example, in this COVID-19 era, this COVID-19 caused a lot of havoc in the society. Before the lockdown, you see some parents go to the market, buy a lot of food and store in their house. And some even buy and give to the poor as a relief. So it helps us a lot. Number 8, it enhances smooth transportation of food to different places. Let us look at food processing. Food processing is a physical or chemical technique used to change raw food ingredients into foods, or to change a specific food into other forms for consumption. Food processing helps to preserve food and reduce scarcity. It helps to make food available in the countries that cannot produce such foods. Processed food can easily be prepared and served by the consumer. Food processing methods are, but before we look at food processing methods, we have grouped them into 2. Number A is methods used to convert raw material ingredients into food for consumption. B, methods that are used to preserve foods. Let us look at A, which is methods used to convert raw material ingredients into food for consumption. The processing methods are 1, chopping or slicing. Example, diced carrots are the sliced onions. Diced carrots as in preparation of salad and sliced onions as in preparation of stew. Number 2, mincing and macerating. Example, minced meat. Mincing is when you chop your meat in a tiny shape, small shape, and you mince meat in order to use it to prepare your meat pie. And you can even macerate your meat, which is used to prepare the toddler's meal. Number 3, homogenizing. This is the process which fat droplets are made into emulsion. Example is homogenized milk. When you go to the market, you ask them of homogenized milk, they will give you. What do we mean by homogenizing? Making the entire ingredients to be one, that they will not be different again from each other. Then number 4, cooking. This includes baking, boiling, broiling, frying, steaming, or grilling. So cooking is also a method of processing food, because when you cook, you already change the state of the food into another state. Then number 5, emulsifying. This is the process of mixing ingredients to form an emulsifier. The sole function of emulsifier is to allow oil and water mix together in harmony. For example, mustard helps to emulsify salad, dressing of oil, wine and seasonings, and mayonnaise. Potash solution, that is akamu in our Igbo dialect, dissolved in water, emulsifies palm oil to produce ncha, an emulsion used in eating grated tapioca, that is abacha, or popularly called African salad. Number 4, pasteurization. This is the process of partial sterilization by heating or irradiation to kill harmful bacteria and make food safe for consumption. Example, pasteurized milk. They subject the milk into higher heat in order to kill the microorganisms in the food. The next one is milling of corn, cassava, wheat into powdered form. What do we mean by milling? Milling is crushing grains into flour or into powder form through the use of machine. When you do such, that means you've milled those grains. Number 8, addition of gas in food such as soft drink and bread. Example, in bread, you add yeast, which serves as gas to the bread and help it to rise. Number 9, fermentation. This is the process in which a substance breaks down into simpler substance. Microorganisms like yeast and bacteria usually play a role in fermentation process, creating beer, wine, bread, yogurt. Let us use cassava as an example. You use cassava to get your pounded cassava, which is we call fufu. How do you do it? You ferment it by soaking them in water for 3 days, after which you sieve to get your fufu. The same thing is applicable to maize. You ferment your maize and soak it for 3 days. Take to the milling machine, they mill, and you sieve to get your pap. The next one is food processing method used to preserve food. That is the second one. Number 1 of it is sun drying. This is the oldest method used in preserving or processing our food. Drying reduces water content in that product. This reduces the likelihood of bacterial growth on food. When it comes to food processing, cereal grains like maize, beans, wheat, rice, millet, etc., the drying process is used. Fish and meat can also be sun-dried. For example, as we are in maize abundance now, what do? The farmers will simply spread the maize, excess maize, under the sun. They sun-dry it in order to get the ones that will eat when they are out of season. Number 2, refrigeration and freezing. This is the most common techniques used in the modern days to preserve or process food, both on commercial and domestic basis. A wide range of products can be frozen to process at the same time with the help of huge cold facilities. Yes, use your refrigeration to process your food so that they will not spoil when you use them. Then number 3, smoking. Foods such as meat, fish, and others are processed, preserved, and flavored by the use of smoke. This food processing technique is quite simple, and the combination of smoke and aroma of the food enhances food taste. Salt. Salt sucks out moisture from the food. Hence, it is used in food processing. The best example of food processed by salting is meat. I have told you earlier that if you want your meat to remain fresh until the time you use it, you simply do what? Sprinkle salt on it. It helps to suck out the waters and make your meat remain fresh until you want to use them. Number 5, vacuum packs. These are very, very necessary for some certain food. The food is in airtight bags and bottles in a vacuum area. An airtight environment doesn't provide oxygen needed by germs, especially bacteria, to survive. This method is commonly used for preserving processed nuts. Example, your groundnut. You see some people, after frying groundnuts, they will put them in a bottle and cork them. Why do they do that? They prevent air from entering into it, and the air that carries microorganisms will not have access to it. Then the 6th one is sugaring. In this method, fruits such as apple and peach are cooked with sugar until they are crystallized, and then it is stored dry. 7, pickling. In this method of food processing, the food is cooked in chemicals and materials fit for human and animal consumption, which destroys microorganisms. Usually, these include brine, vinegar, ethanol. Vegetables such as cucumber, cabbage, and peppers are also processed using picklings. Number 8, food dehydration. Food dehydration refers to artificial dehydration of food under controlled conditions. This will completely remove moisture and water content. Example is your powdered milk. Then number 9, pasteurization and canning. Pasteurization is the process of using heat for processing a liquid or food in order to kill spoilage bacteria and make the food safe for consumption. This improves the quality of such food and gives them a longer shelf life. Foods such as milk, juice, ice cream are pasteurized. Canning is the process of preserving food in sealed jar or cans. Now, when you look at your tin tomatoes, your liquid milks, they are pasteurized and as well as canned to prevent the entry of those bacteria that cause illness in our body. Now, let us look at the last one, which is food safety. Food safety describes the handling, preparation, and storage of food in ways that prevent foodborne diseases. Food can transmit diseases from one person to another if not properly handled. Food safety aims at preventing food from becoming contaminated and causing food poisoning. It is essential to always apply food safety. Now, let us look at how to keep food safe. Number 1, food should be protected from contamination during preparation, cooking, serving, and storage to prevent foodborne diseases. Follow the following guidelines to keep your food safe. Number 1 is wash your hands and surfaces before and after cooking. Before you enter your kitchen for food preparation, make sure you first of all wash your hands with soap and water. Then when you enter, make sure that the surfaces are clean, both the tables, the floor, even the top of the cookers. Keep them clean for you to do what? Prepare a safe food. Number 2, do not cross-contaminate foods. Keep raw meat, poultry, fish, and their juice separate from others. Yes, you don't have to cross-contaminate them when you want to preserve them in your refrigerator. Make sure you separate them. If you must put all this into the refrigerator at the same time, separate them so that their juice will not contaminate the other. The next one is cook all food to proper temperature. There are some food that are meant to be cooked for a long period of time. Don't be in a hurry. Cook them very well so that you will not contact any form of infection. For example, Like beans. Beans are made to be cooked in a long time. When you don't cook your beans very well, after eating them, you start having your stomach ache, which can even cause stomach problems for you. And you start having running stomach. But when you cook them very well, you'll be safe. The next one is always use safe water and safe food item. Make sure you know the source of the water you're using in the cooking, and make sure that food items you're using is also safe. Don't use spoiled ones, because when you use those spoiled ones, which already have microorganisms in them, you will become ill after eating them. The next one is always refrigerate perishable food within 2 hours of purchase, as in your meat or your fresh fish. When you buy them, make sure you do what? You refrigerate them if you're not using them immediately. The next one is canned foods should be kept sealed in a cool, clean, and dry place for an average of 12 to 18 months. Discard food which can that are leaking, bulging, or rusting. Canned food are meant to stay for a long period of time, and you are supposed to keep them in a dry place. But make sure that they don't stay more than 1 year to a year and 6 months. And make sure that any of them that is leaking, don't make use of them. Anyone that is bulging, don't make use of them. What do you mean by bulging? You see some of them, they'll start to swell up. Their cans will start to swell up. When you see such a thing, don't use them. Something is wrong with that food. Then, don't use rusted ones. The ones that the cans have already rusted, make sure you throw them away to avoid all these microorganisms. Now, the next one is thaw foods in the refrigerator. What do we mean by thawing food? Thaw means defrost food in the refrigerator. Don't force them out. Maybe you want to bring the food that you put in the freezer out. They are stiff. Don't force them out. Thaw them. You can use your cold water to thaw your food, provided you change them every 30 minutes. The next one is refrigerate leftover food immediately and consume within 3 to 4 days. Any leftover food, what do you mean by leftover food? Any food that remains in the previous day, put them in the refrigerator and make sure you use them within 3 to 4 days. The next one is keep hot foods warm and cold food chilled when serving food. You are supposed to eat any food that are meant to be hot, warm, and eat any food that are meant to be cold, chilled, like your ice cream. They are meant to be cold. You chill them before you make use of them. Why do we do all these things? The hot and the coldness of the food will help to kill any microorganism in that food. Then the next one is, do not buy expired food or foods that will expire before you plan to use them. Make sure you check the expiring date of any food you're buying, especially all these tea, canned, and bottled food. Make sure you check their expiring date, provisions. Don't buy any of them or anyone that will expire before you finish using them. Avoid them so that you'll be safe. Now, my students, we have gradually come to the end of this lesson. Now we will look at the assignments that will help to evaluate us to know whether we've actually achieved the specific objectives stated earlier. Number 1 is state 3 principles of food preservation. Number 2, mention 5 preservation methods. Number 3, state 5 reasons for food preservation. Number 4, mention 8 food processing methods. And number 5, state 8 guidelines on how to keep food. My dear students, answer those questions and send your answers to my WhatsApp contact on your screen. Thank you, and may God bless you.